Hey everyone, this is Lil already and welcome back to Abstrakt Music Lab. Today we're going to talk about bass lines and how to actually make your bass lines sound better by actually showing you real life examples and actually doing that with you along the video. So first I'm going to show you the example and also going to tell you what they're doing over there. And then we're going to go into actually doing that into MIDI clips and transforming two MIDI clips, a steady bass and a rolling bass, to then transform them into something a lot more interesting. By doing this, your bass lines are going to end up more dynamic, which will make your tracks end up being a lot more interesting to your listeners and to yourself as well. So stick to the video and I hope you like this video a lot. Let's go to Ableton. So we're here on Ableton and first we're going to listen to the two examples. Sia's Unity is the rolling bass example and we also have Jack Wynn's Animals, which is the steady bass example. So let's listen to Sia. So listen how in this bass line, it not only the bass has some bass jumps, but it also has a lot of change here in the last bar of the progression. And the bass jumps. It has a lot of and now we're gonna listen to Animals by Jack Wynn's. So you can see that not only it has some bass jumps, but it also has some variant notes, which makes not only the bass jumps, but also goes a little bit different from the root note. It creates some steps throughout the way, which makes the track a little bit more dynamic and less steady. Let's go into the MIDI, so now you learn how to actually do them and actually apply this to your tracks. So first we have the rolling bass. This is just a standard rolling bass with just one note. You can see that that's mainly how rolling bass goes. They only stay with only one note and go doing some a little bit of variance. But like this, it's just one simple note that it's actually kind of boring. And now we have the bass line from Jack Wynn's on the top channel over here. But without the bass jumps, and you can listen again to the bass jumps over here. First of all, where would you apply this? So the rolling bass is mainly for progressive house, melodic techno, while the steady bass could be used in melodic house, progressive house as well, trance, breaks. You can use both sections into all tracks. But now how can we actually make it more interesting? So we're going to start by doing something really simple, which is we're going to differentiate the 4-bar loops within the 8-bar loops. We have two 4-bar loops over here, and we're going to start by making them a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. In the rolling bass, you can see that basically what we've just done is we've created this variant note over here, and we've added this to the second 4-bar loop as well. But we've added another layer of variance here in the second 8-bar loop, just so what's playing the initial 4-bar loop is not going to be playing the second 4-bar loop. This is not a requirement, but this makes the bass line a little bit more interesting. Let's listen to how it sounds like. We're just adding a little layer of change in the 4-bar loops, so it's not exactly the same, and we're making the bass line a little bit more dynamic. Let's go to the steady bass right now. How it was. And now we're going to the changing part. Or we could have done something like this. We're just changing one note of this progression. This already makes the progression a lot more interesting because it's actually different from what you've just listened before. And by doing this, it makes your track more dynamic and makes your track more interesting. It's not the same thing over and over and over and over again. But that's not only it. And let's go to phase 2. Phase 2 is we're going to start adding some other variant notes in the end of the sections, in the end of the notes. This way, we're going to glue the main root notes together by not actually changing the root notes, just adding more depth to it. Let's listen to how it sounds like. You can see that we've added this note over here, this note over here, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Let's go. We're just making it a little bit more interesting. We're changing it from the boring, steady root note and making the end of the root notes a little bit more dynamic. Let's go to the rolling bass one. We're adding here a little bit of variance in some of the notes and making them different. So this way, what you've listened to before, it's actually changing throughout the whole 8-bar loop and not only in the end of the 8-bar loop. Makes it a lot more interesting to listen to. But that's not enough. We still have to add those bass jumps that I've talked about and that both tracks do. But what are bass jumps, first of all? Basically, bass jumps are, we're going to pick the root note and we're going to put it an octave up. Basically, picking this note, the root note, and putting an octave up. Let's do this one over here. Something like this. No, not this one. Maybe this one. A lot more interesting already then. And now let's go to phase 3 and see how it sounds like. You can see that there are a lot of bass jumps over here. A lot nicer to listen to. It's not that boring old root note all over the place. It's the root note going up and down and changing note. And notice, for example, this note over here, that instead of having it down over here as it was, remember over here at phase 2, here at phase 3, I've actually did a bass jump with it as well. So you not only can do the bass jumps with the root note, but you can also do the bass jumps with the variant notes. And now it sounds like this. How it was. And how it is. It makes it a lot more dynamic, it makes it more interesting and nice to listen to. When I listen to how it is right now, and how it was, the first phase is just too simple, it's just too boring. And like this, it's just a lot more interesting. And same with the steady note. We have here the bass jumps because they come from the root note. And we also have the variant notes that don't come from the root note. And we're just changing here to create some variance here in the bass line. Not necessarily you have to add something new at the end over here. Not necessarily you have to do bass jumps, but try doing this because it does make your track more interesting. It does make your bass lines a little bit more dynamic. And I know that I've said dynamic a lot in this tutorial, but that's what it's all about. And then we go to the phase 4 of this tutorial, which is actually making the sound design more interesting as it approaches the end of the 8-bar loop. Just to give an example, I'm gonna pick here the mid bass. Now what we're actually going to do is just changing the sound design, either the cutoff or making it more acid as the end of the 8-bar loop approaches. Let's listen to how it sounds like. We're just making it vary a little bit now, not only with the MIDIs, but also with the sound design of the bass. And this could work as well for the steady bass note, although this is mainly used for the rolling basses. We're just changing here the filter is something really simple, but it actually makes the bass, as I said before, more dynamic and more interesting to your songs, which is in the end what we want to achieve, a song that feels not only interesting to listen to, but also changes along the way, so the listener is always hooked up, is always interesting to what's next for this song. And you can do this not only with the tools that I've shown you today, you can go even further. You can maybe change the syncopation of the bass, you can maybe change the characteristic sound of the bass, you can basically do whatever you want. But these are the 4 techniques that I always use for all my tracks, especially the rolling bass ones, which you can listen here in the description below. But I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned a lot from it. And if you did, hit the like button if you liked it, hit the subscribe button if you loved it, and I see you in the next video. Ciao.